Fantastic.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, my background's in both in the building industry, and then more recently, I've also worked in the not-for-profit sector, which I can assure you is just as much about growing a business as any other sector. So there we go. Trinity, perhaps introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Trinity James. So my background is in training and learning and development. And yeah, I've been working with Business Station, supporting their business coaching programs. And yeah, it's been such an exciting time to see so many small business owners just thriving through the COVID period, making really intelligent decisions about the changes that they need to make. And certainly, yeah, let's talk about getting back in person and driving that now that we're all allowed to.
I know. And I guess I've come from a generation that we had to build a business largely on face-to-face. So we really didn't have this online option. So we did a lot of it by, meeting with people, calling people, driving around. I mean, I was building industry, meeting with real estate agents. So I guess I just want to ask you guys a question. And that question is, what do you think? Why do you think people have moved towards this strong trend towards online as our primary marketing and customer base building mechanism? What do you reckon has seen that trend happen? Iris, what do you reckon?
Hi, can you hear me?
You can.
Yeah, good. Well, I think it was just this, I've got to go online because how else can I keep my business going through COVID? And it just seemed to be the thing, but I've actually gone back to the face-to-face. I've just recently decided that's what fills me up. That's what I love doing. So I'm going back to that. But there's still a lot of work.
I definitely agree. COVID was one of those triggers, wasn't it?
But I'm actually, what I realize is I still need to use quite a lot of the digital stuff. They're like the social media, audience building and that kind of thing. There's some great things that have developed through the last few years by using those ways of promoting yourself. So.
Oh, absolutely. I think it was almost a silver lining of COVID, I suppose, that it really opened up a lot of doors, removed a lot of barriers for us to be able to serve people outside of our area. But it's almost been an over-reliance on it now. Like, the pendulum has kind of shifted.
Yeah.
What other reasons do people reckon we've gone to the online? Because I reckon there's other underlying reasons why we've chosen to use it as well.
More of a reach. There's more of a reach. Yeah.
Definitely, Heidi. I think reach, because people doesn't necessarily mean engagement, but it does definitely get you to a different group of people that maybe you would otherwise come in contact with. So you're expanding your reach, especially if you've got a product sale, which you can do in the world. Well, then suddenly geography is no obstacle, is it? It's a reach. So, Maria, what do you think? What are you saying, Maria?
Oh, I was just going to agree. It's bigger reach. You can reach globally.
Yes.
So yeah.
And I think that there was a little bit of what you were talking about, Paris, with mental health. I think there's also been a bit of a social reluctance for people to come face-to-face, both for those health reasons, but I think also because of other, I think that sense of people retreating from face-to-face and being with each other, that's tend to happen in that last 10 years, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, even just us as a whole, like our whole society, we're really heavily relying on tech as well. So we're really moving into that online space, regardless.
Yeah. So I guess it's like, what do you think the impact of that has been? I mean, there's both been benefits and those kind of negative factors that come with it, but there certainly has been some benefits from it. And I think one of them would be the reach, correct? Most of us would feel that we're getting to a different group of people than we would ever make contact with if we were solely relying on a face-to-face kind of style. But what else do you reckon has been the impact of the kind of face-to-face, of the online use reliance?
I think there's been a bit of reliance on, I don't know if it's reliance, but a sort of retreating to the computer rather than putting ourselves out there. So, there's so much to be done in the digital space, all these different things we've got to learn and whatever. And I've noticed it for myself that I've become, in putting my focus on becoming more confident with the tech, I've actually lost a bit of confidence in actually doing face-to-face and in-person stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like having to relearn it,
I've heard people say to me, I remember speaking to a business owner recently, and I was talking about this idea about they had a customer base that they'd actually known for a long time and a database. And I talked to them about the idea. They sent them emails, and I said, your top 10 clients that you've had for a period of time, what about giving them a call?
Yeah.
And honestly, the person almost physically recoiled in front of me, like at the idea of making a phone call now. It was like, oh, golly, I don't know if I'll feel comfortable doing that. Now, that was a phone call, not even a face-to-face. And I thought it's really interesting how that would have one time been, it was just your bread and butter to call people. So I think there's been that real retreating from. So today, what we really want to explore is, look, whilst we all know the online is going to give us some advantages, it is going to give reach, it's going to give geography, it's going to cross geography, it's probably going to give us a chance to say a lot different messages, right, than you can give when you're just face-to-face with someone for a couple of minutes, because you can put up multiple images and multiple stories. So it's giving you different images and stories you can do. But there's some things that happen in face-to-face or potentially in building a customer base that you actually cannot do if you solely rely on the online. So that's what we'd like to talk about. So perhaps, Trinity, maybe you want to kind of lead this little section. Let's talk a little bit about the fact, because you're probably of a generation that grew up largely with the tech, right? So it's interesting that you've actually had to really kind of push yourself into a face-to-face to build a network.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for making me feel young for a second there, Kelly. But I mean, I'm at the very tail end of that. Let's be honest. Look, I think that honestly, the phone thing that's real. Like, I remember when we first were getting mobile phones, like we were paying for ringtones, right? Like I'm from the generation when we were like actually paying for ringtones. But now I tell you what, if this little rectangle makes one single noise, I'm going to smash it to pieces. Like that's where we're at now. I don't like my phone to ring. I don't like to be surprised. I see a number that I don't recognize and I don't want to answer it. So it's really interesting how our communication preferences have really changed in the space of just a few years.
So I think that the whole point is, I think that what do you think are the benefits though of either face-to-face or a direct call over?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's really important to just get that human connection back as well. Like sometimes, we're surrounded by so much noise and we forget that at the core of any successful business is an interaction between two humans. And when we start getting back in person and looking people in the eye and building that rapport and just, getting away from all the ads and the digital noise, we can come back to focusing on really what matters, what's at the core of any successful business. And that is human connection. That is that know, like, and trust factor.
Yeah. And I think what the data is, or the research is showing is loyalty. Customer loyalty is built on the connection, and customer loyalty is the customer loyalty really drops off when it's purely based on an online, like sales kind of pitches. And what do you think, you guys? I mean, it's quite obvious. I think it seems quite obvious, but what do you think when you're just relying on online, only online? So it's not like it shouldn't be. And I think your idea, Paris, of a podcast is a bit of a blend of the two. It's almost like it's online, but it's actually almost got a personal connection element to it. People hear you. But if you're only online, what do you think becomes the most important elements for people to make a decision about using your service or not? Put your hands, let's see a hand up in a box here. Maria, what do you reckon?
Well, I think it's building trust, which probably takes longer online, and that just have them having sort of faith in you showing up and being consistent. So I think it takes more effort online. Whereas if somebody meets you in person, they get a feel for you straight away. So I don't know if I've not answered the question straight away correctly.
No, but no, it's a good
I think it's harder online. Yeah,
I think you're right. It's quicker when you're face to face, when you meet someone. I think that when you're online, the number, what do you think people look for? And first thing they're looking for when they check out something online, what's the first thing they're looking for?
I think credibility and testimonials, and I mean that's what I would look for.
That I'd really like to think that, but the number one thing people use when they go online is price.
I was going to say Facebook.
Oh, interesting.
Number one thing people look for is the data would show is they look for price. So
Okay.
it's almost like it's the first point, oh, what's that going to cost me before they actually look for the type of service. So it's not so much about quality or even about variety. Often it will be a price point. Which
What about also likability as well?
That's what comes up. That's what they would say the differentiating point is of a face-to-face or a more personal contact. So what we're talking about is if you have an online approach, let me also say a lot of people who use online don't put themselves as a person online. So they're promoting a service or a product and showing pictures, but they're not actually talking themselves like even what we are today. So the likability factor gets lost because they don't know you. So that's
I know if I'm definitely looking for something online, I'll look at the posts, I'll look at the profiles, I look at the way that they've displayed their products. So if I don't feel that that's in alignment with me, then sometimes price isn't necessarily the main factor. If I don't like you, I probably won't buy from you despite the price.
Well, and I mean, would we all not love that? it's just the research would show that would be, you're in the minority. That's not what the minority people do. So I think I'd love it. I love what you're saying, because I'm thinking, gosh, it's kind of almost like a more sophisticated way of buying online, but majority of people, that tends to be not what they would do. So the data would say that they look at price first. So I'm with you in terms of the concept is we would far like that sophistication, but I think what we don't is that most people don't have it. And that's the benefit of building a face-to-face. So maybe Trinity, you could talk to some ideas of what are some of the face-to-face kind of ways of actually building a customer base? What are the opportunities we look for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what you've just raised there about, avoiding the price issue as being the prominent thing that people are looking at is so important for building loyalty as well. And like, you're just not going to get that customer loyalty without having a sense of knowing the person that you're working with, I suppose. And that's really where the face-to-face can help.
So what kind of face-to-face opportunities would you think that we should all look for?
Certainly.
Yeah.
So depending on the industry, I mean, you need to know where your customers are hanging out and go and be there. So it's about understanding your ideal customer avatar and actually being able to find them where they're at. But it's also great to even look at even business networking groups where you can find great referral partners that are aligned to what you're doing in your business, but not necessarily a competitor. And you can build relationships with them, because like a recommendation from them to their clients, like their clients have already got a relationship with this person, right? And because you've built rapport now across there, like that carries through, those relationships. It doesn't necessarily stop with just the person that you've met in person. That referral can carry through their connections too. So I think that those business networking groups really shouldn't be underestimated, even like your chambers of commerce, that kind of thing.
How many people are in a networking group of some kind like that, business networking? Maybe put your hands up in that. Paris, Heidi, Trin, Maria, so probably Collard.
Lots of us.
Paul.
Oh, awesome.
We've probably got about 50%, it looks like. About 50%. Who's had a really good experience has anyone had a great experience in their group in terms of building up either a partnership where you're two-way, being able to recommend each other, or referrals? So Paul, maybe tell us a little bit about what's worked for you in that networking group.
I think what's worked well is just being able to connect face to face and engage. So the business is health and safety services, and so it's understanding what their business is about and what their pain points are, and just being there when they have a problem to solve. So in some cases, that's referrals. In some cases, that's directly with people within the group. But it's more about building connection, and sometimes it's other businesses that help support what you do. So it's people who help with your branding or your website and
Mm.
services that help build your professionalism in what you do that you don't necessarily have those skills in.
And you know, one thing I liked you said there, Paul, and I think this is the immediacy. The immediacy, what that can happen in a face-to-face interaction, because you can hear the problem. Because otherwise, you know, what at the time we're trying to be a bit broad, because we're trying to be, you know, online where we might be able to have limited opportunities to say what we do, or in one interactions. But the interesting thing is face-to-face, you can kind of have that to and fro, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
And
yeah. For me, I'm old school. I enjoy talking to people and meeting people and learning about what they do. So
yeah. How many people are really find they have a strength in that out of the people online here? Hands up if you think my strength is the face-to-face. I'm good at that.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good percentage. And who gives me the thumbs down and says I really don't like it at all? I'd rather just give them. Okay. So jump off your hands up if you've already answered. So is there anyone there who goes, I really don't like that face-to-face thing and I do avoid it? Okay, we've got a couple of people who do that. So that's, I think for us, we're saying, look, that idea of getting into a different markets, what do other people do to build their market, their customer base by face-to-face? Who goes to, you know, potentially runs markets or runs event days or runs just, you know, maybe training events, all things like that to direct people in. I was looking at the people who do the accounting and the kind of the account services, as well as that business coaching, strategic coaching. Who was that? Was that Wendy?
No.
No? Who was it who did that? Someone did the like coaching of business. What did you do, Wendy?
English woman from Perth.
You're doing travel. You're doing travel. So I guess it's this idea about how do you actually get in a physical room or in a location, potential people who in your industry who's actually had some success with that. So Amanda, what have you done?
I go to new mums groups and I do like the mums and bubs markets and things like that. I find that the mums and bubs markets, or the markets in general, for me work quite well, but the new mums groups don't. I don't get for the volume of time that it takes me to actually spend in doing them, I don't really get the return business, whereas the mums and bubs markets I do.
And I even like it when you say that, because I think the other thing when we try these strategies is we've got to have a way of measuring it. Because we can end up trying all these different things and we keep doing them. But if they're not bringing, and I mean, there may be some return, Amanda, in other ways, not just business. So I'm not saying wouldn't go to those, but there may be some that you go to more for connection as opposed to, you know, sales. But if you think they're not, it could just be that in that environment, people don't like to say they're having a problem. I mean, it could be, honestly, just practical things like that. But it'd be good. What have you done, Paris? Tell us a little bit, Paris, about what you've done to face-to-face to start to build up a network.
So for myself, particularly just mainly with the podcast side of things, I've been attending a lot of workshops that are based around mental health. So that's where I'm meeting a lot of even my guest speakers. I'm also actually even turning up at rehabs and things like that, and actually calling people and inquiring on whether I can have a sit-down meet with them at their facility and speaking with them there. But I've also been attending some workshops in a sense with other, say, like coaches that might be in a similar space, and been connecting with them. And I've actually had some collaborations come out of that as well.
Yeah, well, and I think that's what each person's industry. I'd love it if you just wrote down, if you just thought now, what would be potential network in your industry where you can get to, where you're not sitting necessarily with competitors, unless you've got different parts of a business that complement each other, what kind of places could you go to actually build this customer base? Because I think that's the uniqueness. Everyone in your own industry has to do that. So I know when I did it when I had the building industry, I would go to the real estate events. And I wasn't in real estate, but I would go to real estate events and training events in that area. And I also went to, some of the funny other ones were in the demolition industry, which is specifically what I got involved in. Sounds funny, doesn't it? I pull down houses and larger buildings. So kind of and it was amazing. That became my primary source of business, not trying to find a local homeowners and not even builders, because they often had their own people already. But I found the real estate agents became and it became because I measured it. I really measured it and worked out that became the place I would spend my money, even in attending events. So I think it's to find, what about you, Trinity? What kind of networks have you found to be most successful for you?
Oh, look, I think the small business networks are fantastic. Like the Chambers of Commerce are really good. So Peel, like I'm down in Mandarin now, and the Peel Chamber of Commerce is fabulous. And I know further up north, like, the Melville Coburn Chamber of Commerce is really
that's a really active
really active. And like
Sterling's very active.
Yeah, Sterling, and Melville's fantastic as well. Look at Wanneroo is amazing.
Wanneroo, yeah.
And I just think that that's a really good place to start connecting.
So I actually do think when you go to these, you've got to get yourself there. But I guess what we just want to finish off, there's some tips about how to make it work when you get there. Because I don't know if that's you, but I've been to some of those things and I end up talking, I'm pretty good. I kind of push my way in, but you can really feel on the outer when you get into those places. So I don't know if people have gone there and thought, oh golly, I've ended up barely speaking to anyone. So I think the first thing that I've learned is that you do have to have a series of questions ready that you would ask someone else. Don't go there with the idea, I'm just going to introduce my business. I always think I'll go there with a couple of really good questions that I would like to ask someone else. And I don't tend to say, what's your business? When I actually meet them in person, I'll tend to say, how has business been for you in the last month? Have you found it, how is the business trends in your area? So you ask them something that it's just engaging other people in a really intentional way. Because if it really is all about you when you arrive, it's so, I don't know if you've ever found it, but I remember recently going and having someone who just wanted to come and deliver to me a complete sales pitch. And it's really difficult to listen to. Because you think, hey, listen, we're all here to talk about our businesses and see if we can help each other. So I think if you go with a couple of questions and then almost invite the same back, that to me has become a really good tool for, getting something from those business groups, or getting something, even when you go into a group of people who you think are potential buyers for you. I think you said that, Paul, to try to tease out with people what their needs are and what their pain points are.
Yeah, exactly. I find it interesting just to learn what people are going through, what they're doing, and from that something may or may not eventuate, and if not, it's just a great discussion. But yeah, I just find that's a great lead in. I don't ever lead in with what I do so much. I'll ask them about what's going on for them.
Yeah, it's amazing how much more engagement happens, isn't it, Paul? But it's kind of what you've got to work at, So I think striking a balance between expanding your own network and listening to someone else to actually see how you could help them. If you become known for that, particularly if you get into a network group and you become like that, you really will build a group of people who'll help you.
Yeah.
So
maybe, what have you got over there, Trinity? What was a thought you would have?
Yeah, look, I think probably, like, if I had to bring it down to just the one thing, I think Simon Sinek said it really well. So he said he's got one rule about, when he goes out in speaking in public, and that's that you have to show up to give. Just even say to yourself as you're walking in there, you're here to give. So like, according to Simon, like, it's really about stepping back and just considering what you really want to achieve when you're at the networking event. think about why are you there, what valuable insights or, you know, what value can you share with others there? Ultimately, what's the contribution that you want to actually make? Because that's really how you can build rapport, make those meaningful connections. Like as humans, we're really highly sensitive to whether someone is acting selflessly or selfishly. Like what Kelly said a minute ago about, you know, nobody wants to hear a sales pitch, right? If we're looking to build rapport, if we're looking to build meaningful relationships, we want to show that we're there to give our attention, give our support. And people, yeah, the gratitude that builds really does create a more meaningful connection.
Especially a small business group, because many of us are quite isolated. You know, we are not working in a lot of other people. So I think that when someone wants to be like that with you, it actually really does encourage you.
Absolutely.
So I guess the second thing that I always have is that I always think I'm going to walk away with 3 or 4 people that I actually I know. I'm going to have their details. I'm going to actually know 3 or 4 people. I'm not going to walk away with this concept of, I think I spoke to a couple and, you know, they were quite nice or quite good. I think I have a real intentionality about who am I going to know at the end of this. And it may not be because I'm trying to get anything out of them. It's not because they're generally, it's just the fact that if you do that, honestly, the next time you go back, you straight away feel like you've got a connection and you look at a few other people, but it's really important to have that kind of rapport building, I think I'd call it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then not to let it stop there as well. Like you've met those 3 to 5 people, you've got their contact details and their business card. It's about following up and doing that authentically so that you can actually start to form a lasting connection. Like LinkedIn is fantastic for that, but, you know, text messages or like a quick email is great for that as well. Just a nice personalized note to let them know, you know, oh, it was great to meet you. Maybe remind them where you met just in case we're all busy. Yeah. And
I think that's it. I think that quick follow-up, because I mean, I don't know how many people here have gone to a network meeting, met a couple of people, and it could be industry related, and you thought, I've taken their details and I've followed them up, and now we've got a connection.
That's it.
Hands up in the room if you actually think I've been pretty intentional about that. I suggest Paul is, because Paris is. Paul would say he's good at that. Anyone else does that? I really think that it's a really important thing. Otherwise, we start wasting our time at networking. We're almost looking for the perfect person to connect with, who's really got to help us. But every person in that room becomes an important part of your network. If they're all there like you. So I think that would be the primary tip that I'd go with. And I think yours was a good thing there. Go with this attitude. What did you say Simon Sinek said?
It's about turning up to give. So yeah, you say to yourself, you're here to give. And that reminder message, that really is an opportunity for you to give before you take as well. Like when you send that follow-up message, like if you had mentioned something in that conversation, even if it's a link to a podcast or, hey, you mentioned this, you know, here's what we were talking about. This is a great opportunity for you to actually follow up on genuinely sharing.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Just the other day, I met a woman at a business network meeting, and straight afterwards, within an hour, she sent me a link to a podcast that she had mentioned to me.
Yeah.
And in that, and she just said, hey, just dropping this too. And I thought to myself, golly, I'll remember her. Yeah. I remember her because, first of all, she reminded me of her name and what she did. And then she sent me the link. And I thought that was just it's just so much more than having a nice conversation with someone. That's not networking.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that, and look, honestly, if the person doesn't have a chance to get back to you as well, it's also good to send a reminder message. Like, don't forget how busy people are. Inboxes are out of control. Notifications are everywhere. So if a message is left on read, don't take offense, and you can follow up again in a week and just say, hey, I'm just following up on my previous message, blah, blah.
No, I don't think get offended. So I think the whole thing, we've kind of got all these funnel kind of concepts, I think, with online. You know, people are talking about how you keep people in the loop, and I just think you've got to think the same way with people when it's face to face. Don't let it become this, well, I met you and I saw you and I told you about what I did and now you haven't contacted me, or, okay, that was a waste of time. if you're not thinking of it as I'm going to build connection, actually, because I truly do care about other people as well, not just for my own personal gain. I think if you think like that, you can build a fantastic network of people who start to be in your world. And Paris, I think your idea of going to all those different workshops and then having them on your podcast, and then, you know, going to places that actually deliver services and talking to them, you're actually starting the whole networking idea before you start your business. You will never lose from it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And
Sorry, can I just interrupt there? I'm really interested in what you do, Paris, in terms of the podcasts. So could we connect about that, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
why don't you drop the link into our chat?
All right, yeah, I can do that.
Beautiful. Okay, thanks.
Paris runs a podcast on mental health, so we're going to drop it into the chat, and she'd love any of us to jump on. She's got about 6 episodes there already, and so please feel free to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If everyone
Thank
wants to drop a link to their LinkedIn or to, you know, their Facebook, wherever they'd like us to connect, feel free to drop that in the chat now, so we can all connect there too.
Yeah, you've seen it, but it'd be nice to drop it who you are into there, and then what we'll do is we'll all check it out afterwards. And it actually is a really nice thing. And feel free from this conversation. I mean, I think even though we're online, it'd be really nice in this room if you've got someone who you think, oh, I'd love to know a little bit more about their services, contact them. And let's do that, because again, it's just part of this thing about being intentional about our conversation tonight.
Absolutely.
So anyway, we've gone over time. It always happens, doesn't it? So Trinity, maybe you could just say about where to from here in terms of a couple of things that we'll do for people.
Certainly. So there's a couple of things to look out for. Business Station, we've just launched a new free mini series. Watch out for that in your inbox. It's a 2-week mini series of all of our best resources, links to webinars, links to templates, links to resources. All of that is free. We've spent a lot of time curating that. So definitely make sure you keep your eyes peeled.
Is that the one called Daily Sparks?
That's the Daily Sparks. Okay. Absolutely.
It's going to be called Daily Sparks, everyone. So check that out, because that's just resources are going to come through for a couple of weeks to you.
Absolutely. And then we've got our Jumpstart Business Coaching Program, which is kicking off on the 16th of January. So we'll send some information around about that. And finally, our next Swings and Roundabouts webinar session is going to be in February. We're doing them in the first Wednesday of every month. Obviously, we'll be skipping January because we're all still in Christmas mode, and we'll see you in February.
Sorry, how can we copy the webinar chat?
What do you mean? You mean get a copy of today's?
Just to copy all the links on there, because there's no 3 dots usually where you can copy.
Done my pyrite.
I'm not sure. You know what I'll do though is I can just copy and paste that in an email and I'll send it around.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And we'll drop it in. But listen, check out each other's there, because I'm looking at it there. I'm going to definitely speak to you, Amanda, about that child baby things, because I get a lot of young women talking to me about their sleep patterns. So I'm sure that one's going to be a great resource for me that I'll chat to you about. But otherwise, everyone, it's been great chatting. If you want to send us a message, if you want to send either of us a quick message, or have a question, or feel like you've got something to contribute, can you drop it into the chat, or even contact us on email. So we're actually at Business Station. I'm Kelly, Kelley, at businessstation.org.au, and Trinity's at businessstation.org.au. It's been great speaking to you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A little wave of where you are.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.